In this unit, we will discuss the vitamins. The vitamins are organic compounds, which means they all contain carbon. Again, don't get organic compounds confused with organic foods. Organic foods are grown without the use of pesticides or chemicals, whereas organic compounds are compounds that have a carbon base to them. Vitamins are vital to life. We absolutely need our vitamins for our body to function properly. However, we need them in very small quantities. It's not like the energy yielding nutrients discussed, such as proteins, carbs, and fats, where you need, or lipids, where you need larger quantities of those to survive. Vitamins we need in very small, minute amounts, and they're non-caloric. You can eat vitamins all day long, but they're not going to provide you with energy. They're going to provide you with essential nutrients that help the body function properly, but they actually won't provide you with energy or the ability to do work or function in that capacity. There's two major ways that we categorize the vitamins, and here, let me click back quick and I'll show you on this chart. When we categorize the vitamins, we categorize them as fat-soluble vitamins or as water-soluble vitamins. And here, these are the list of the fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin A, D, E, and K are our fat-soluble vitamins. And the water-soluble vitamins are all of our B vitamins, which includes thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, folate, biotin, pantothenic acid, B6, and B12. Pretty large group, but all of those are considered part of the B group. And vitamin C. So those are, the B and the C vitamins are all water-soluble vitamins. So what distinguishes fat-soluble vitamins from water-soluble vitamins? Well, first, the fat-soluble vitamins, just like the name says, are found in fats and oils of our foods. They are soluble in fat. For us to absorb them, we need bile to absorb them. Again, remember, bile helps us to emulsify or to mix our fats. We tend to store our fat-soluble vitamins more so than our water-soluble vitamins. Like for example, we tend to store vitamin A in our liver. Vitamin E tends to get stored in our fatty or adipose tissue. We can actually make vitamin K and vitamin D. We can make vitamin D in our skin, and we have bacteria that live in our gut that will actually make vitamin K for us. So we tend to store these and even make these. In general, they get absorbed into our lymph system, but they can't travel freely in our blood without an association with a protein carrier. Again, remember, they're fat soluble, so they have the same hydrophobic lipid base to them, and so they don't like to dissolve in water. So they'll have to be attached to a protein carrier to travel through the blood. Whereas the water-soluble vitamins, they're absorbed directly into the bloodstream. They don't need any sort of carrier to travel in the blood. They travel freely in the bloodstream. And again, like I said, they're not stored in any great extent in our body. We easily get rid of excess vitamin C and vitamin B through our urine. And we tend to have lower risk of toxicity issues compared to fat-soluble vitamins. And again, this ties into the ability of us to excrete them. If we have excess vitamin B and C, we just excrete it. We don't store it, and so we don't tend to have toxicity issues. Whereas if you were to have an issue with toxicity to a vitamin, chances are it would be a fat-soluble vitamin, just because those are the ones we tend to store. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through all the major vitamins, and what I highly recommend doing, this is how I learned them. I think this is a good way to learn them. It can be really overwhelming when looking at these vitamins, especially if you've never heard of any of these before. The first time learning these, they all start to kind of run together. So I highly recommend taking the time to make these into note cards. On one side of the note card, write the vitamin name, and on the other side, write just the one or two major roles of that vitamin, or what it's known for, or how it functions in the body, a couple good food sources. If there's any sort of deficiency disease associated with it, write that down too. And just take the time to write these down. It'll take you 5-10 minutes to put together a little set of note cards, and then put it in your backpack, put it in your purse, and when you're waiting for the bus, or you're waiting at a doctor's appointment, or you're waiting to pick up your kids from school, just flip through them quick. And you'll be surprised how quickly you learn these. Just go through them 1 or 2 times a day, and before you know it, you'll remember, oh yeah, scurvy is a deficiency disease of vitamin C. Oh, rickets, that's the deficiency disease in vitamin D. Okay, you'll get those straight. So take the time. I know it seems kind of elementary, but it does actually work. And that way you're not trying to cram, a few hours before taking a test to learn all of these. It's much easier to retain if you write them all down now and just take the time to flip through them for 5-10 minutes a day, every day up until test day. So vitamin A, this is our first fat-soluble vitamin. There's actually 3 active forms of vitamin A that we see in the body. Retinol is how we store it in the liver, and then it can be converted to the other forms as needed. And then there's retinol and retinoic acid. Those are all essentially just different names of vitamin A. And for those of you that are into your face creams and your beauty creams, you might recognize some of these names. A lot of face creams will have retinol or retinol in them. I've even seen retinoic acid on some of them before. We know vitamin A helps a lot with maintaining the skin and other body linings. So you can see why some manufacturers would put vitamin A right into their lotions and skin creams. So when you see those names on a label next time you see retinol on a skin cream label, think vitamin A, because that's what it is. We derive vitamin A from beta-carotene. Beta-carotene is the plant precursor for vitamin A, and this is kind of what gives a lot of the different plants that orangey characteristic. You see this a lot with sweet potatoes and squash and carrots. They're very, very high in vitamin A, and thus they kind of have that orangey tint to them. A is a jack of all trades. Vitamin A does play a role in many, many different body functions, like I already mentioned, in the skin and body linings, immune system defenses, growth of bones, reproduction, normal cell development. Probably best known for vision, though. Vitamin A is very, very important, especially in early development, adolescence, early childhood, for vision development. And we also see vitamin A deficiencies pronounced in people who suffer from night blindness. So without vitamin A, you're not going to develop your sight nearly as well as you should. You see this a lot in countries with that have rice as their staple food. A lot of Southeast Asian countries, they're starting to genetically engineer rice to have vitamin A, but rice typically doesn't naturally have vitamin A in it. And so you see a lot of childhood blindness in countries with people of Asian descent, because rice is such a staple food. They're not getting some of those vegetables that they need that have vitamin A. So that's something they're trying to remedy through genetically modifying crops to have vitamin A. Again, good sources. Write down a few good sources on that note card. Milk. If you look at your milk at the grocery store, it often will say vitamin A and D fortified. So it's a good source of vitamin A. Bok choy, which is it's kind of like a vegetable type. A lot of people use it in like stir fries. Like I mentioned, carrots and sweet potatoes. Also liver. If you're a fan of liver and onions, which I will never understand, but a lot of people like liver or pate. Liver is very high in vitamin A, and that makes sense because we store vitamin A in our liver, and so do other mammals. So if you eat liver or pate, you will consume lots of vitamin A. Again, deficiencies can result in blindness, night blindness, and some severe deficiencies. You'll start to see issues with skin and tissue integrity as well. And again, as I mentioned, almost 60% of all preventable blindness, in Asia and Pacific Islander countries is preventable. It's just because they don't have enough vitamin A in their diets, and that's typical of countries where there's just not a lot of variety in their food, and rice is the staple crop. Vitamin D plays so many roles, but it's probably best known for mineralizing bone. My master's thesis work was in bone research, and so I know quite a bit about vitamin D, so I try to keep myself in check here because I could tell you all sorts of things vitamin D does. It's known in helping certain organs function. It's known to help maintain blood pressure. It's known to affect certain cancers, and can contribute to diabetes. There's all sorts of roles for vitamin D, but it's best known, and what I want you to know for the test is it's best known in its role of helping to mineralize bone. Bone is made up mainly of calcium and phosphorus, which are not vitamins, those are minerals. But to mineralize those, to get them to go from being dissolved in a liquid to being solid, you need vitamin D to do that. So without vitamin D, bones will tend to be very soft and pliable. And so lack of vitamin D in the diet can result in very bendable, pliable, rubbery bones. Some good sources, again, fortified milk is a good source. A lot of different seafoods, shrimp and salmon are good sources. And then sunlight. Again, I'm not talking about laying in a tanning bed for 5 hours. We don't want to give you cancer. Too much sun is a bad thing too. But even if you just have on a t-shirt, a short sleeve shirt, and maybe an exposed neck region out in the sun for 15 to 30 minutes a day, that is all the exposure your skin needs to make enough vitamin D for the day. So there's a chemical in your skin that the UV lights will convert into vitamin D. So yes, you absolutely can make vitamin D with your skin. We tend to see in people who have more melanin in their skin, who have darker skin pigmentation, we tend to see vitamin D deficiencies because it's harder for them to absorb those sunlight rays and make vitamin D. Also, people that live in northern climates, during the winter months, there's very little sun out, or people that work in office buildings all day long. You can actually see vitamin D deficiencies because you would be surprised how very little sun exposure some people will get in certain climates or in certain occupations. So having a darker skin tone is a wonderful thing to help prevent wrinkles, but having darker skin makes it harder to absorb vitamin D too. Again, the major function of vitamin D is to help mineralize bone. So the major issue we're going to see with vitamin D deficiency is an issue called rickets. Rickets is where the bone does not mineralize properly, and you'll see this abnormal bone growth where you might have a bowed chest, you might have knobs on the ends of your ribs, you'd have bowed or knocked knees, and in here, this poor little guy, you can see has severe deformation of the bones, and a lot of this happens because as they're not getting good nutrition and the bones are growing, they're walking on them, and their weight and the pull of gravity is causing them to bend and then recalcify in the wrong way. And so you see this severe abnormal bone development and bending that really can't be fixed. There are some surgical procedures which can help, but cases like this are pretty tough. And again, the students will ask me often, can you reverse this? Well, if you catch it early enough and you get treatment, you can do some work with braces to try and help bone remineralize the right way. Bone actually does break down and build. You actually turn over your entire bone mass about every 7 years. So it is possible to fix this somewhat, but this is a pretty severe case. So again, the longer the deficiency goes, the more severe the deficiency is, the harder it's going to be to fix something like this. And this definitely is going to take several surgeries, and this little guy still ain't going to walk right. Vitamin E. I always think of vitamin E as my extraordinary bodyguard. This is the guy who takes the bullet for the body so that you don't get cancer. So I think of him as like my Secret Service agent protecting the president. Its best known role of vitamin E is as an antioxidant. Antioxidants are things that get preferentially oxidized so that your cells don't get oxidized. Oxidation results when you have things called free radicals or mutagens that float around. They like to oxidize your DNA. And free radicals, they're produced through natural metabolic functions. We make free radicals all the time, and our body will process and get rid of them. But we also do, in some instances, we expose our bodies to more of them than we probably should. Things like smoking, gives us cancer. UV ray exposure too much can cause free radicals. You don't want to expose yourself to too many mutagens because if you have a lot of environmental mutagens too, eventually they can overwhelm your body's protective systems and lead to cancers. Mutagens that cause damage to your DNA that leads to uncontrolled or unregulated cell division, are known as carcinogens because they lead to cancer. Unregulated cell growth is cancer. That's basically the fancy name of saying that you have cancer. Cancerous cells are your body cells, but they're no longer under your control. And usually it results from exposure to some sort of carcinogen, which is a mutagen, that has damaged or oxidized your DNA in some way. And so vitamin E plays a very important role in helping prevent that, because it will take the oxidation away from the DNA getting oxidized and help protect your cells. So that's the big role of vitamin E. Some good sources, again, it's a fat-soluble vitamin. So you find it in a lot of oils and seeds, wheat germ, mayo. Avocado is a great source of vitamin E. Eggs, again, a lot of different skin treatments and face creams. They'll have a lot of those retinols in them and a lot of vitamin E's and things like that. You'll see a lot of antioxidants in skin creams to help protect the skin. So a lot of those can get absorbed pretty easily into the skin. Again, they're fat soluble and they'll get absorbed pretty well with the skin tissue. So vitamin E will be found in those too. You don't really get nutritional benefits from vitamin E when you use skin lotions, but you do get the benefits of protecting your skin. Vitamin K, the last fat-soluble vitamin, is known, probably its best known role is for synthesis of blood clotting proteins. That being said, I don't want you to get this mixed up. Vitamin K plays a role in helping the body make blood clotting proteins. But if you have a disease such as hemophilia, where there's a mutation in the gene that makes the protein, having extra vitamin K around isn't going to avert that. If you have a genetically mutated protein, doesn't matter if vitamin K is around there to help synthesize it, you're still going to make the wrong protein if it's mutated. So vitamin K really helps with the process of making those blood clotting proteins, but it won't combat some sort of genetic mutation. If you're on a blood thinner, if you have some sort of cardiovascular health issue and your doctor has you on a blood thinner, they might try and limit your vitamin K intake because it's counteracting the function of the blood thinner. The blood thinners are trying to keep your blood thin. Vitamin K is trying to help your blood clotting proteins form, which makes your blood clot or thicken. It also helps with synthesis of bone proteins that bind minerals to bones. There is some evidence that making sure you have enough vitamin K can help reduce the chances of hip fractures too, especially later in life. Newborns, that's kind of an interesting fact. If you have any kids, if you've had any kids or your significant other has had any kids, the nurse will usually bring in a small little clear tube not long after the baby is born that has a little sweet taste to it, and they'll put that little dose of sweet clear liquid in the baby's mouth. And a lot of moms will be like, well, what is that? And they'll say, oh, it's vitamin K. Well, remember I mentioned that we actually have bacteria that live in our intestines, in our gut, that make vitamin K for us. But when you're born, you're sterile. You've come out of the womb and you haven't had any exposure to those natural body flora. You haven't built up your own natural bacteria flora yet to be able to produce your own vitamin K. So until that bacteria is established in your gut, lots of times hospitals will give a baby a little dose of vitamin K, just in case you drop your baby on its head. You want to make sure that the blood will clot, and so you'll get a little dose of vitamin K at birth just to tide you over until the bacteria establish themselves. You see this in animals in nature too. If you ever watch the Discovery Channel or any of those nature shows, you'll see baby elephants eating their mother's dung. You'll see different animals actually eating the fecal matter of their mother. And it's disgusting to watch, but it actually has a real purpose. They're trying to establish that natural bacteria colony in their intestinal tract that they haven't had a chance to develop yet. So it's a very natural thing to try and get some of those natural bacteria flora in your system. And good old Popeye, I'm really dating myself here, but anyone who remembers Popeye, I'm with you. Popeye the Sailor Man always ate his spinach, made him nice and strong. Vitamin K is found in high quantities in spinach, cabbage, romaine lettuce, all those different green leafy vegetables. Typically, the greener the better, the darker the better. Um, the more green that you see, that's usually a sign of more vitamin and mineral content. So green leafy vegetables are a great source of vitamin K. Again, like I mentioned, the bacteria in your colon, and soybeans, and some oils too also have, like canola oil is a pretty good source of vitamin K. So those are the major, those fat soluble vitamins. Now we'll take apart vitamin C and vitamin B here a little bit. Vitamin C, its major role in the body is to help form collagen. And collagen is like the body's glue. Collagen's found in bones, teeth, skin, tendons, scar tissue, capillaries. It really is, it's a protein that really helps the body parts kind of stick together. And if you don't have a lot of, if you're deficient in vitamin C and you're not producing collagen properly, you can see a disease called scurvy result. And in the instance of having scurvy, you'll actually see your gums will be sore, your gums will bleed easily, your face might erupt with little tiny hemorrhages, like little petechial hemorrhages. The corners of your lips might crack. The cuticles around your fingernails might be more sensitive to bleeding. That's a sign of scurvy. And if you're deficient in vitamin C, that might be what you have. Again, you don't see it that often in the United States anymore, but it was very common a couple hundred years ago. The actual official name for vitamin C is ascorbic acid, which translates into no scurvy. They recognized consuming vitamin C would combat scurvy, so that's where we got the name ascorbic acid, no scurvy. And this was, there's a lot of pirate folklore that goes along with this. Pirates and merchant marines, people who sailed the high seas hundreds of years ago, they often suffered from scurvy. And so, you know, if you think about it, if you go out to sea and you're going on a long journey for weeks or sometimes even months, within a few days, all your fresh fruits and vegetables are gone. So you no longer have those sources of vitamin C anymore. You're left with pickled pork and beer and salted jerky and, you know, all those types of things, but no more vitamin C. And so very often, pirates and sailors would get scurvy. And that's where, like, if you've ever, I know the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are pretty popular now, and when Johnny Depp says, you scurvy dogs, that's what he's referring to. They used to call them scurvy dogs, and that was why. Or lots of times, even today, if you're familiar with naval culture at all, Navy sailors are called limeys. And the term limey comes from drinking lime juice. They used to avoid scurvy. They used to keep bottles of lime juice on a boat, and they would take shots of lime juice to help avoid scurvy on the ships. So that's where the nickname limeys comes from. So a little bit of historical context to vitamin C. So along that line, lemons and limes, oranges, grapefruits, all those citrusy fruits, those are all great sources of vitamin C. So anytime you eat an orange or a grapefruit or a lemon or a lime, you're getting lots and lots of vitamin C. Also, green and red peppers are a great source. Tomatoes, broccoli, strawberries, sweet potatoes, all very good sources of vitamin C. So if you consume any of those, you're going to get plenty of vitamin C. The B vitamin group, very overwhelming group. I'm sure you noticed on the first slide, like, man, is she going to make us know all of these? What I want you to know about the B vitamins, I want you to remember that they're water-soluble vitamins. And I want you to know just in general how they function. And if there are any specific deficiency diseases, I want you to know those. So don't worry so much. I'm not going to have you, you know, what's another name for riboflavin? Is it B1 or B2 or B3? I'm not going to ask that kind of level of specificity. But I might ask a question like, riboflavin, thiamine, and niacin are all examples of what type of vitamin group? That's the B vitamins. Or which of the following is a characteristic of B vitamins? Well, most of them act as coenzymes. So I keep these questions relatively general, except with the exception of some of these vitamins do have some very specific deficiency diseases associated with them that I want you to know. But as a general rule, they do all share in their functionality. They're all most of them are what we call coenzymes. And just like the name says, they are like little co-workers that help out enzymes. Coenzymes are small molecules that combine with and activate an enzyme. And we need those enzymes working for proper metabolism of our carbs, lipids, and amino acids and proteins. So when you look at all of these different B vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, they all essentially help release the stored energy in our energy yielding nutrients. Now again, B vitamins themselves do not give us energy, but they help with the metabolic processes of releasing energy from proteins, carbs, and lipids. And so on that note, a little current events here, these little 5-hour energy drinks, another thing that drives me crazy. I hate these things. No, sorry, I'm injecting my opinion, but I do. I think they're extremely misleading and not fair. But again, that's why you're getting an education, so you know what you're getting. If you like these things, fine. If you want to drink them, fine. But I think in full disclosure, I got to tell you what you're getting. When these 5-hour energy drinks are advertised to you, they basically tell you like they're this little pick-me-up that doesn't have any calories or very few calories, and they're going to give you this little boost. Well, again, I hate the way they use the word energy, because we define energy as the calorie. Energy is the ability to do work, and calories are the only things that actually provide us with energy. And if you look at their label, they really don't have any calories. You know, they really don't have much for calories, so they're not providing you energy per se. What they're doing is they're providing you massive doses of B vitamins and a little bit of C too. You got a pretty big dose of vitamin C. But really, look at those, 8,333% of your B12 vitamin. Yeah, I know B12 is known to help boost the sense of energy and whatnot, and it is important for metabolism, but it doesn't actually give you energy per se. What they're really doing is giving you a high dose of certain B vitamins, which can be used in the metabolic process to break down energy yielding nutrients. But this is way more than you need. Way, way, way more than you need. And what you end up doing is you just pee it out. You've got all these water-soluble B vitamins and C, and any excess that you have, you're just going to urinate it out. So it's really a waste of your money. And then what most people feel when they feel that energy boost is the caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. It's an artificial stimulant. It's essentially a drug. It's the most commonly consumed drug in the United States. And it really what it does is it just stimulates your body. And that makes you feel like you have more energy. But it's not actually giving you an energy boost. 1 second. So I'm obviously not a huge fan of these. Again, if you drink them and you like them and they make you feel better and make you feel like you have more energy, knock yourself out. But I just want to make sure that you know what you're getting and a little truth in advertising. Most of this you just are going to pee out, and also the caffeine itself can actually dehydrate you a little bit. And as a result of that dehydration, that can actually lower your metabolism and lower the rate of your caloric burn. So again, I'm just not a huge fan of them, but you're free to make your own choices there. Again, with the rest of the B vitamins, some important diseases to be aware of. A niacin deficiency would result in pellagra, which is a really nasty disease where the skin literally starts to flake off and peel away. Thiamine deficiency will result in what's called beriberi, which is another usually a wasting away condition where you get really, really thin. But you can have edema with it. So there's two forms. You can see that's the wet form where you see the skin really swell and hold water. But the dry form tends to be a little bit more typical. And then finally, a folic acid deficiency or folate deficiency. A deficiency can result in spina bifida if you're pregnant. While you're pregnant, if you have a folic acid deficiency, it can lead to spina bifida in your baby. Often you see open spinal tissue at birth, sometimes paralysis. It can present as just a little spot on the skin, or it can, like I said, you can have the back completely splayed open with tissue showing. Oh, 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Never fails. Home phone goes off. So the vitamin B deficiencies, again, don't worry so much about trying to remember which one is, B3 versus B2, or is niacin, or is that thiamine, or is that riboflavin. But know these three major deficiency diseases and which B vitamin is associated with them. Again, pellagra is associated with niacin deficiency. Beriberi is associated with thiamine deficiency. And folic acid, or also known as folate, is associated with spina bifida in babies when moms don't get enough folic acid in their diet. Folic acid is a precursor to thiamine, and thiamine is one of the building blocks of our DNA. And so you think about it, if you're copying all of your cells and you need to copy all of your DNA to do that, during that time of your life when you're going from 1 cell to 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 and so forth, that's a huge time of needing lots of DNA building blocks. And if you don't have them, we tend to see the damage in babies' neural tube development, and that results in spina bifida. So again, here are those conditions that I talked about. Pellagra, you can see the skin is peeling off this guy. He's got wrappings to try and hold it on, but it's an extreme deficiency in vitamin B. Beriberi as well. Here's the dry version of beriberi, and folic acid deficiency. The spina bifida here, this little guy has an open sore on his spinal column from folic acid deficiency. Again, beriberi and pellagra, a lot of you have probably never heard of those before. They tend to be pretty uncommon in the U.S. 1 second here. Okay, sorry about that. I had another slight interruption again. Back to beriberi and pellagra. A lot of people have probably never heard of them before because they are so uncommon in the United States. And a lot of this has to do with us enriching our grains and our cereals. Back in, I can't remember the historical context. I think it was back in the 40s or 50s. The government actually really pushed heavy with a lot of the different cereal and bread companies to fortify their products with all of the major B vitamins. And this is why you see cereals and grains and flour and things like that. If you look at the food nutrition label, that's why you see them all have 25% of 8 essential vitamins and minerals, or 50%, and some of them even have 100%. But that has really stamped out these diseases in the United States. It's very, very rare for people to have these vitamin deficiencies, these B vitamin deficiencies, because of the enriching and fortifying process we've done in the foods in the United States. Spina bifida is also relatively rare in the United States too. There are a few circumstances where you can get it because of genetic issues as well. But most cases are a result of prenatal care. And because we do have such good prenatal care in the United States with doctor visits and prenatal vitamins during pregnancy, we don't tend to see a lot of spina bifida. If you look at the prenatal vitamins, you'll see that they're much higher in folic acid than the regular vitamins. And so much so that I tell students all the time that I think it's important to just take prenatal vitamins if you're sexually active, even if you're not planning to become pregnant. Many of us have been conceived and we were not planned. And so in today's world, with as smart as we are about our biology and as much as we educate and talk about it, there are still a lot of unplanned pregnancies. And so if you have an unplanned pregnancy, or even if it's planned, you may be pregnant, 4 to 6 weeks before you recognize that you've missed your menstrual cycle. So very, very important if you're trying to become pregnant, or you're or just sexually active and you could potentially become pregnant. Because by the time you realize you are pregnant, you've often been pregnant for several weeks and even into the months. So, and that can be when a lot of the chances of spina bifida to happen could be happening. So I recommend to all women of childbearing years that are sexually active, spring for an extra couple bucks on a bottle of vitamins and buy the prenatal vitamins. Folic acid is a B vitamin, so if you have it in excess, you're just going to pee out the excess. And one of the great side effects of taking extra folic acid is it helps with other cells in your body that tend to divide regularly. So it helps strengthen your hair and your skin and your nails. So there are other benefits to having that extra folic acid as well. B12, again, this is one of those things you see on those energy drinks. There are some studies that show that it can give a sense of energy boost or calm some of the neuromuscular system issues if you have tingling and numbness, or you tend to bruise easy or have trouble healing wounds. Sometimes people will get a B12 shot, and that's found to help them with issues of tissue healing and issues with fatigue and lightheadedness. But a lot of studies out there on that, and I'm not as well versed in it, and some of them are conflicting, so I don't like to speak too knowledgeably about it. But I do know that doctors will give a B12 shot to help with people that are having trouble with fatigue, and they do show promising results. So with all this, do you need to take a multivitamin? And again, full disclosure, I do take a multivitamin, and I do take a prenatal vitamin. In truth, if you have a well-balanced diet, you really shouldn't need a multivitamin. If you're eating appropriately, you should easily be able to hit all the vitamins that you need in a day. But, I'm like everyone else too. I have a bad day, or a day I'm in a hurry, or I forgot to pack my lunch, or I was traveling, and I have some poor habits that pop up every once in a while. And so really a multivitamin is still recommended by most doctors, even if you eat healthy, because it will kind of cover those off days or those bad days so that you don't have any gaps in your nutrition if you happen to not eat very nutrient-dense foods for that day. Again, though, vitamins are not a substitute for a good diet. Again, there's other things in your diet besides vitamins, such as phytochemicals, fiber, other things, healthy fats, healthy proteins, that are so important that you're not going to get when you take a vitamin. And also, besides that, when you turn on your digestive system through the process of eating, you're better at absorbing those nutrients. Whereas if you just take a vitamin with water and you're not consuming it with food, you just don't absorb those nutrients as well. So vitamins and water are not the best way to be getting your vitamins. Getting vitamins from your food is the best way. And if you are taking a vitamin just to kind of cover your bases, it's really best to take vitamins at the same time you're consuming food, because it will then, again, turn on all those systems in your digestive tract that help with absorption of nutrients versus if you just took it with water. Oh, so let me go back here quick. So just in summary again, remember what vitamins are. They're micronutrients we need in small quantities. They're organic or carbon-based. They don't provide us with energy, but yet they still are important to life and many body functions. They tend to be grouped into two categories, the fat-soluble and the water-soluble. Fat-soluble tend to be stored. They also tend to be the ones we're most likely to have toxicity issues with. The water-soluble, we can excrete those out through our urine, so we don't tend to build up toxicity levels with those. Again, make them into note cards, and on each note card put what the vitamin is, the one or two major things that vitamin is known for doing, are the major functions in the body, 2 or 3 good sources of that nutrient, good food sources of that vitamin, and then any deficiency disease associated with it. So if you get all that on a note card and you just flip through those a little bit every day, day by day, you will be well prepared for the exam.